Today we look at chapters 17 and 18 of 2 Kings. And chapter 17 begins within the 12th year of King Ahaz of Judah. That's the southern kingdom, of course. Hoshea, son of Elah, began to reign in Samaria over Israel. He was the king of Israel then for 9 years. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. No surprise there, is it? No. But he wasn't quite as bad as some of the others. But the king of Assyria began to battle against him. And he paid his tribute, and he did what he was supposed to that way. But he ends up being confined and imprisoned by the king of Assyria. And then this Assyrian king invades all of the northern kingdom of Israel. He lays siege to Samaria. And as he's doing this, he captures this area. And he moves 27,000 some people out of Israel, moves them out. This is the exile. This is the end of the kingdom of Israel, about 721 BC. Judah remains for a few more years yet, and we've got a few more chapters of 2 Kings to read. We'll finish up, I think, on Saturday. But the kingdom of Israel was destroyed, taken over, and the people were scattered. It's called the diaspora, the dispersal. The people were scattered. They were no longer a people with a land. This people that God had led out of captivity and led them into the promised land and promised, to be their God and lead and guide them. But it was all over for the kingdom of Israel. And verses 7 and 8 of chapter 17 are some important ones to read. I'm just going to read them for you right now. This is, the Assyrian king has captured and taken these 27,000 some people. They're no longer there. But so this is why. He says, this occurred because the people of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, who brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of the king of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. They had worshipped other gods, and they walked in the customs of the nations whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel, and not in the custom of the kings of Israel that had introduced. So the reason, right here, the reason that Israel was destroyed, captured, no longer the promised land for the people of Israel, was because they had massively disobeyed God. They continued to worship false gods. They had all the high places of worship, and they followed the customs of the other people. They forgot about their God. And verse 9 says, the people of Israel secretly did things that were not right against the Lord their God. Well, I don't think it was too much secret from God what they were doing, because God knew what was happening. He knew about their high places. He knew that they were going in worship. And it just kind of keeps going on. And in verse 11 and into 12, they did wicked things, provoking the Lord to anger. They served idols, of which the Lord had said to them, you shall not have any idols. You shall not do this. The Lord had warned them. But the rejection of God got to the point that, God's anger was raised up. And it reminded me of a sermon that I shared. It wasn't my sermon, but it was a sermon that I was asked to read, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. And, and it was this reminder that, we are totally at the mercy of God. And when his anger is stirred against us, we have no hope. And this is where the Israelites were. They had angered God. In verse 18, therefore the Lord was angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. None was left but the tribe of Judah alone. So Judah, the southern kingdom, that even though they had some kings that did evil in the sight of the Lord, the majority of the kings of Judah, the southern kingdom, followed the ways of the Lord. Although they didn't completely remove some of the altars and some of the idol worship and that, they didn't completely follow, but they were much better than the northern kingdom. Because verse 19 is that reminder. It says, Judah also did not keep the commandments of the Lord their God, but walked in the customs that Israel had introduced. So Israel, the northern kingdom, also influenced Judah, the southern kingdom, in a negative way as well. And, the Lord rejected all the descendants of Israel. He punished them, gave them into the hand of plunderers until he had banished them from his presence. And, can you think of anything worse than being banished from God's presence? That would be the eternity in hell, the separation from God. We, as Christians, believers in Jesus Christ, we believe in the resurrection, and that we will be, John 14, I go to prepare a place for you, Jesus says, and we trust and we believe that there's a place for us, that we will be in the presence of God and in the presence of Jesus, not that we will be banished from his presence. And if some pastors in today's society, some denominations will preach universal salvation. And, it's not that. Jesus doesn't say everybody's going to be saved. He says it's more likely that a camel can go through the eye of a needle than a rich man enter the kingdom of heaven. Well, not to say that, but a sinner, if we, on our own, we are helpless. And we can be easily banished from God's presence. Jesus says there will be wailing and weeping and gnashing of teeth, He talks with this Dives and Lazarus, this poor man is in heaven and the rich man, oh, hey, but there is a difference, and we see that. So, verse 21, when he had torn Israel from the house of David, they made Jeroboam king. And he drove Israel from following the Lord and made them create a great sin. And so the king of Assyria conquers the northern kingdom, Israel. The people are moved out. Just as when the Israelites came in, God had instructed them, to drive out all of the others. They weren't to let the people that were there remain there so that they would be pure and remain who they are as God's people. But now everything had gone the other way for them. Verse 29 of chapter 17, every nation still made gods of its own and put them in the shrines in the high places that the people of Samaria had made. And it goes on, these other lands, other peoples and everything, they also worshiped the Lord and appointed for themselves all kinds of people to be high priests who sacrificed in the shrines of high places. So they worshiped the Lord. This is verse 33 of chapter 17. So they worshiped the Lord, but also served their own gods. You can only serve one Lord. You can only have one God that you are faithful to. It's just, you can't be pledging allegiance to one and to the other. It's just like, I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands. This is my loyalty to America. And I can't pledge that same loyalty to another country. There are people that have dual citizenship, but, so how do you divide that? How do you, who or what are you loyal to? And the people of Israel were definitely not loyal to God. They do not worship the Lord. They do not follow the statutes or the ordinances of the commandments. And so chapter 17 deals with the end of Israel, the northern kingdom, in about 721 BC. And actually Isaiah is one of the active prophets at this time. We haven't heard about him yet. We'll hear about him tomorrow in chapter 19. But, these books of 1st and 2nd Kings talk about all the kings, but they don't tell the whole story either of what's going on. And so chapter 18, then in the third year of King Hoshea, son of Elah of Israel, Hezekiah began to reign in Judah. So a new king in Judah. He reigned 25 years, and he did what was right in the sight of the Lord, just as I mentioned earlier. Most of the kings of Judah were faithful to God and did what they should. In the fourth year of so it was in the fourth year of this King Hezekiah of Judah that the king of Assyria came against Israel, and Israel was thus destroyed and taken in. These other kings, of course, they come and they war against Judah and everything going on that way too. And this king sends a messenger to Hezekiah, how do you think you're going to stand against us? You need to pay us your tribute. And well, the king doesn't come out himself to talk to these messengers. He sends a servant out, and they're speaking in a language, and their request is to speak to us in Aramaic, so that we understand it. And so Aramaic was the language of the people at that time, more so than the Hebrew. And when we get to Jesus' day, Jesus spoke the Aramaic language as well. So we've seen the end of Israel. We see King Sennacherib now, as I hadn't mentioned his name, but he's the one that's invading Judah and warring upon the nation of Judah.